What happens when you put Orbeez in hot water and Orbeez in cold water?
If one bowl of Orbeez are in the hot water and another bowl in cold water, the Orbeez in the cold water will shrink and the Orbeez in the hot water will expand. So I'm about to put the Orbeez in. So the red bowl is filled with hot water and the white bowl is filled with cold water. And so I'm about to put the Orbeez in the hot water. So now it's time for the cold water. And we'll see what happens. Now it's hard to see, but the smaller Orbeez was in the cold water and the bigger Orbeez was in the hot water. So the cold Orbeez in the cold water got smaller, and the hot water, the Orbeez got bigger. Conclusion: if you put Orbeez in cold water, the Orbeez will shrink. And if you put Orbeez in hot water, it will make them expand.
If you water a plant with salt water, it won't die. Hypothesis: the salt water and both will perish most while fresh water stays healthy. First, I'm watering 2 plants with fresh water. Now I'm watering 2 plants with salt water. In conclusion, salt water and both have been completely perished while fresh water is thriving. Watering a plant with just salt water or with fresh water and salt water doesn't matter.
Does red or blue food coloring affect how long it takes to freeze? If I put red or blue food coloring in the water, it will not affect the freezing rate. First, I took out 3 plastic tins. Then I poured water into them. After that, I put red food coloring in one tin and blue in another. Then I mixed them. Once I finished mixing, I put the tins into the freezer. After a while, I checked on the tins and they were all frozen, and the only difference was the colors. In conclusion, red or blue food coloring does not affect the freezing rate.
My question is, will Orbeez expand more in salt water or regular water? My hypothesis is I think Orbeez will expand more in salt water over fresh water. I got 2 cups. I filled 2 of the glass cups with water. Then I filled both of the cups with Orbeez. Then I added my own salt water and added one of the. Here were the result of the Orbeez. My conclusion is Orbeez need fresh water to grow because if you not grow.
My question is, what is better to wash your face with in the morning, hot water or cold water? Hypothesis: I think that hot water because it will make you wake up faster. And then here is my first day of hot water. As you can see, I have a rag and then I put soap on it and I wash my face with the warm water. So today's day 2 of the hot water. You can just see it kind of got me going in the morning today and it helped me get in a better mood. Day 3 of the warm water felt good, helped me in the morning, and it was very warm. You can see by my face when I put it on. Then here, day 4 felt good and refreshing. That's really it. Day 5 felt good, liked it really much, and it helped throughout the day. First day of cold water felt really good, loved it. I think it's better than hot water in my opinion. Day 2, this was very nice too, good refreshing. Day 3 helped me kind of because the cold woke me up. Day 4, this waked me up a lot. Day 5, this felt good and this Conclusion: the cold water helped more than the hot water.
What would the water look like if I freeze water that contains salt, sugar, or synonym?
I think that the one with cocoa synonym, will look very different. The one with salt and sugar, though, would look just like the regular but foggy.
For the procedure, I pour cups of water, put in the respective powders and mix. Currently mixing the synonym, and then I put it in the freezer for a day or so. Finally, I observe. None of the water froze at 0 degrees Celsius, but the water did look different. The sugar water was the same as regular water, but well, with sugar. It looked the same. Salt water was just, well, cloudier. The cinnamon water, though, looked completely different to right here. Just a mess of like a cloud that was brown. You can't even see partially through it. So, what's up?
What's your glasses for? Hypothesis: if I take 2.5 minutes, I'm gonna drink water. I put an ice cube in and I waited for it to melt into the water. After 5 minutes, I come back to see that the ice cube melted. In total, it takes 5 minutes for an ice cube to melt in a drink.
Question: what surface will make the most noise when hit with a drop of water? Hypothesis: if I drop water onto multiple surfaces, a piece of tinfoil will make the most noise. First, I set up all my materials. Next, I dropped 1/4 a teaspoon of water and I measured the noise. This is the pillow, and that clocked in at around 5 decibels. This was the cardboard, and that one was about 10 decibels. The tinfoil was about 15 decibels. Then finally, we have the paper, which was 8 decibels. The winner is tinfoil. The results of my experiment proved my hypothesis right. Tinfoil made the most noise. I conclude the objects with more ability to vibrate create more sound than those that cannot. I can further conclude that thinner, more flexible objects tend to vibrate more.
Does fresh water or vinegar melt faster? Hypothesis: the vinegar will melt faster because it is denser than fresh water. I started off by measuring 2 tablespoons of vinegar. Then I measured 2 tablespoons of water. Then I poured the measurings into the ice cube mold. I put the tray in the fridge and waited about 5 hours for it to freeze.
Hello, and this is going to be the first pour. Alright, now I'm going to taste test it. A healthy pour. With salt water all over my hands, I want to try a sip. It's probably going to be salty. It's the fourth pour. Now I'm going to taste test it. It kind of tastes like water. but salty. Hello, and this is the 5th pour, and it's the last pour. Alright, and let's see what it tastes like. It definitely had less salt in the taste. That's it. Bye.
My question is, does salt water or fresh water evaporate more in 2 weeks? My hypothesis is if I put the same amount of salt and fresh water by the window, more of the fresh water will evaporate. I got 2 cups and filled them with water. Pink is salt water and blue is fresh water. I mixed 2 tablespoons of salt into the pink water. I placed both cups by the window and added a black line. At the end, I can compare to where it was in the beginning. I then observed it over 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, the cup with fresh water had less than the one with salt water. Therefore, my conclusion is fresh water will evaporate more than salt water in 2 weeks.
The question is, how well does my plant do when living on water? My hypothesis, if the plant lives underwater instead of on land, it will wither and die. First, I bought 2 identical plants from the store. Then, I filled a large cup with water. I put one plant on top of the water and watered the other every day. One with fresh water and the other one on top of the water. Then, I observed both the plants over 2 weeks. The plant with the fresh water looks healthy and died. However, the plant living on top of the water does not look very healthy. Plant day 1. The plant is vibrant and energetic. Plant day 2. The plant is still fine and okay. Plant day 3. This photo looks a little blurry, but the plant has started to drift to another direction. Plant day 4. The plant has started to drift in another direction. Plant day 5. The plant started to wilt and then the color was starting to get dark. My conclusion is that the plant living on top of the water will eventually wither and die.
Does water take longer to freeze it have baking soda dissolved in it? Hi, I did the experiment, so I need to get some stuff for experiment. First, I got the 2 cups. Now I have a baking water and water. Now I go to freeze it. Both are not a freeze, so I need to do this again. The water is literally frozen, but baking water is not frozen at all, so I need to do this again. The water is completely frozen, but baking water is not, so I think the water is more faster than frozen the baking water.
What would happen if I add color to the water I'm using for my plants? If my plant drinks water with color dye, then I'll have a light color tint in the plant. I bought 4 bunches of flowers and put them into 4 cups, 2 colored, 2 regular. After the first day, there was no drastic change in the flowers. At the beginning of day 2, I noticed some changes. Although on the red side there were not much red on the flowers, but on the blue there were 2 whole flowers that were covered in blue. There was more progress on day 3 of the flowers. On the red side there was more tint to the red flowers, and on the blue side there were more blue to all the 3 flowers. On the final day there were a lot of changes since day 1. On the red side the flowers had more tint than it did before on the first day. And on the blue side you could clearly see the blue that had changed in the flowers. In conclusion, the plants will have the watercolor dye tint on the flower petals or leaves.
Do Legos float better in sink water or salt water? If Legos use salt water instead of sink water, then can float. A sink water, salt, and Lego models. Salt. Step 2, fill the sink. Step 3, pour the salt in. Step 4, stir. Step 5, test. Now I'm testing boat A with fresh water. Floats like regular A. Now testing boat B with fresh water. It definitely sunk. Now testing the salt water with boat A. Good, it floats. Now testing boat B with salt water. It doesn't really float. Legos float better in salt water because A floats in sink water and salt water, but B floats in salt water but not sink water because salt water is denser.
Water evaporates faster, vinegar or water? My hypothesis is if the water in the vinegar is evaporating, then the vinegar will evaporate faster. The materials needed are 2 small cups vinegar, water, and 1 tablespoon. I first got out vinegar, water, 1 tablespoon, and 2 small cups. Then I poured the vinegar into 1 tablespoon and poured it into a small cup. I also did the same thing with the water, but into the other small cup. After that, I just let it evaporate. Day 1, the vinegar was evaporating faster than the water. On day 2, there was less vinegar than water. So after 2 days of observing the 2 cups, the cup with water still had the same amount of liquid as in the beginning, and the cup which had vinegar in it had less liquid. This tells us that the vinegar evaporates faster than water.
What would happen if you put a flower in a bottle filled with water and let it sit for 2 days? My hypothesis is that the flower will freeze and the ice will become frozen in the bottle, making it foggy from the ice.
My question is, what will happen to my plant if I put in fresh water in one and salt water in the other with rocks and see on which one survives or not survives? My hypothesis is that the plant that was given salt water will die and the plant that was given regular water will live. Like you see in the photo, I have 2 plants. What it looks like in about 1 to 2 hours in. This is on what my plant looks like in 4 hours. Which means it's all done. So it seems like that the freshwater plant survived, but the saltwater plant did not. So next time whenever you try to put in salt water, I think that you should think about it twice. But that's on what I predicted, so I was right, yay. Plus the rocks didn't do anything.
How long would a plant survive with a drop of vinegar in its water compared to a plant without vinegar? If I put a drop of vinegar in one plant's water, it would die faster than the plant that has normal water. First, I bought 2 identical plants from the store. Then I put vinegar in one plant's water.
2.
The plant without the vinegar was looking great as expected, but the plant with vinegar wasn't looking too great. Here's my conclusion. The plant with pure water survived longer than the plant with vinegar and water.
Does salt water freeze faster than regular water? If I put salt into 1 out of 2 cups of water, it will freeze faster. I poured water into 2 cups. Then I put salt into 1 cup. After that, I put both cups into the fridge. The salt water barely froze while the regular water froze. Salt water freezes slower than regular water.
Welcome to my water experiment. Hypothesis. I think the plant watered by soda will die. Day 1. Day 2. Day 3. As you can see, the plant watered by soda is dying. Day 5. The plant watered by soda is now dead.
Question: what happens to a rock in salt water versus regular water? Hypothesis: what happens when a rock goes into fresh water and salt water? I got 2 of the same bowls. Then I got the salt. After I got the salt, I filled the bowls with water. Then I poured 2 tablespoons of salt in the bowl. Then I mixed the salt in the bowl. Then I got the rocks. Then I put my rocks in the bowl. Day 1. Day 2. Day 3. Day 4. Day 5. Day 6. Day 7. Conclusion: rocks in salt water can look different than rocks in filtered water.